This is a true story. I was home alone during the day of May 24th, 2007. It was around 3 o'clock, and I had an hour before I had to leave for work. I played on my computer for about 20 more minutes. Then I got up to go take a shower. My bathroom has a large window, which is unusual for a bathroom, but it's on the second story of my house, so it's usually fine, except for this time. I took all my clothes off, turned the shower on, and then I realized there was someone walking in circles in the tall grass where the house's property ends. Normally, I wouldn't make a big deal of this, but I live way out in the boondocks. I don't have a single neighbor for at least a mile. I watched him for about a minute. He was just continuously walking in circles until he noticed me. He fell to knees, started hitting his hands on the ground for a few seconds, and then took off. And I don't mean he started running away. He literally sprinted full speed into the woods. I was weirded out, but I got in the shower anyways. I got ready and walked to work, looking over my shoulder every few seconds to see if the man was in sight, but I didn't see him. I want you to know right now that I am only 15 and that I work as a dishwasher slash cook at a catfish restaurant. And most of the people who work there are awkward and don't talk the entire time. The only person there who I talk to that also works there is my girlfriend, Bailey. Like usual, the entire 6 hours I was there was almost completely silent, other than Bailey, who is a waitress, read off the orders, and the occasional quiet conversations of customers. It was 9:35, so me and Bailey were about ready to get home, and at 9:40 we clocked out and left. On our way home, we were talking, and she asked if she could stay at my house, because coincidentally, she was going to be home alone too. Of course I said yes, and she came home with me. We got to my house and watched TV on the couch for about 30 minutes and went to bed. Although I was 15 years old, I was mature enough to make her sleep on the couch by the window while I slept in my bed. She woke me up at about 11:30, saying that she was too scared to sleep by the window. I told her that nothing was going to happen, but she nearly started crying trying to persuade me, and obviously at that point I let her sleep in my bed with me. She got really close to my side, getting as much of her as she could under the blankets. I went about 10 minutes with her in silence, wondering why she was so scared. She turned onto her side, causing me to realize that she was still awake. So I asked, "What scared you so much?" She told me, "Nothing happened. I was just seeing things." So I asked her what she saw, and what she told me almost made me faint. Bailey told me she saw a guy walking around in circles on the front porch. I immediately jumped up and ran to the window to look, and surely enough, there was the same man I had saw earlier walking in circles. Unfortunately, when I got to the window, I bumped it with my hand by accident, and he heard it. He stopped and stared into my eyes for about 5 seconds, and then immediately ran towards the door and started beating on, trying to get in. At that point, Bailey was well aware of what was going on. She screamed and started crying, which didn't really surprise me. My door was made of metal, so I didn't expect him to get in any time soon. So I ran to Bailey, who was in the corner of my bed crying, and calmed her down. I grabbed her phone and called the police. They said they were sending an officer to take care of it, and I hung up. I grabbed my knife from under my bed that I had just in case anything like this ever happened, but about 5 minutes later, the banging stopped. We both calmed down and sat there quiet for a few seconds, but that was quickly interrupted. We heard one of the windows shattered downstairs. She started crying again. I jumped up and helped her under the bed where I told her not to make a single sound, and then I got in the closet right beside the bed. I then very soon started hearing the sound of someone slowly walking up the stairs, along with the quiet sounds of Bailey crying. But she stopped when the man got to the top of the stairs and opened the door. He slowly walked around the room, almost like he couldn't see. He got to the bed Bailey was under and stopped. He stood there for at least 15 seconds, which I'm sure scared the living hell out of her, until she screamed as loud as I've ever heard her scream. I quickly jumped out of the closet, only to see the man, who was no taller than me, and as pale as the pillow on my bed, staring at her under the bed. She was screaming at the man at this point, when I ran at the man with my knife. I stabbed it into his lower back, and he let out a painful scream and fell onto the ground. That was when I heard the best sound I think I've ever heard: police sirens. I quickly grabbed Bailey and ran out of the house, while the man laid there on the ground making agonizing noises as he attempted to take the knife out of his back. We got outside and waved our hands at the cops, signaling them to hurry to us. They pulled up, got out of the car, and ran inside the house. There were 3 of them. In a quick minute, I heard the sound of 1, 2, 3 gunshots. The cops then came out of the house, carrying what looked like the man to their car. He was dead. They called an ambulance to pick him up, but when they got there, they declared him dead. I am 23 now, and me and Bailey are married, living in the same house. This is the first time either of us have ever showed this story over the internet, and the only thing I can do now is imagine what would have happened to us if I wouldn't have had that knife. Hey everybody, this is Lady Dread here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is my first video, so if you guys can give me your feedback, what topics you'd want to hear about, I'm open for any suggestions. I hope you come back. Remember to subscribe, like, and I will see you guys soon. Have a good night.